Welcome, everyone. My name is Brian McLaren. I'm a member of the faculty at the Center for Action and Contemplation. Each Sunday during Lent, we're coming together to sit and reflect on the meaning of this season. For many people, Lent has always been it's been about sin and feeling guilty and sorry for wrong things you've done. So in hopes that we ask for forgiveness and chart a better path going forward. For others, Lent has always been about giving up something, whether it's chocolate or steak or ice cream or whatever. There's a place for that kind of focus, I'm sure. But this morning, I'd like to invite us into this sit as an exercise of inner letting go and inner opening up. Letting go of things we don't need and opening up to things we do need. So as we begin, I'd like to see what arises for you. I'd like to invite you to just think, what is it that you're letting go today? And what is it that you're opening up to receive? And along the way, I suppose a moment will come where you'll realize, as you open up to the Spirit of the God of peace, you'll realize that it's not only what you receive from the Spirit that you need, but it's the Spirit's presence in you. That's what you need most of all. So let's begin. Be still and know that I am God. You can repeat those words just quietly or aloud. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know. Be still. Be. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Friends, as we bring this time to a close, I'd like to leave you with a reflection inspired by the sections of The Path of the Prophet from the Reader's Guide of Richard's new book, The Tears of Things. You can download that for free by visiting thetearsofthings.com. Here's a brief quote from The Tears of Things. Richard wrote, all the prophets started with anger or even rage at the right things: injustice, oppression, deceit, misuse of money, power, or even religion itself. But with only a couple of exceptions, they did not stop there. They were not just reformers, they were also mystics who were captivated by the wholeness and beauty at the heart of reality at the same time as they were confronting injustice. I invite you, when you think about this deep and powerful insight from Richard, to think not in terms of three stages. You're in the anger stage, then you move to the grief stage, then you move to the love stage. But I invite you to think of rings on a tree. You start with anger, and then you add to your anger grief. Your grief includes your anger and transforms it into something bigger. And then that anger and grief are then embraced and transcended and included in a larger reality of love. This raises for me two questions. What comes before the anger and what comes after the love? And I think the answer is very, very simple. Before anger comes apathy or complacency or normalcy. We all grow up in a world and we just accept it the way it is. This is the way things are. And we're mostly concerned about ourselves. And then maybe we experience some great injustice, or someone we know and love experiences some great injustice, and suddenly anger arises into us. It disrupts our apathy or complacency or sense of normalcy. And we go through this process of anger, and our anger eventually broadens and widens and expands into grief, sadness that the world is the way it is, that things have come to this point. We don't lose the anger. We just grow the anger to include that grief. And then the grief grows to express itself in love. And that brings us to what comes after the love, which is, of course, action. We could say that the anger and grief and love are preceded by apathy, and then it leads us to action. And the action for the prophets is connected to a vision. And I'd like to close with just reminding you of the vision of the future that inspires us to loving action to help us grow into this new place. A new place where we imagine weapons of war being unnecessary and turned into tools for growth. Swords into plowshares, spears into pruning hooks. A vision of a world where the green of money is less important to us than the green of a thriving earth. Where we understand that true riches do not begin with an economic system of mega corporations and favorable tax rates and well-paid executives, but rather real wealth and well-being begins with a thriving ecosystem of rich soil and a stable climate and abundant sunlight and rain. The prophets give us a vision of individual human hearts who start as hearts of stone but are softened to hearts of flesh. They give us a vision of human relationships where people are not plundered by others, where no one is dominated or enslaved. One of my favorite visionary images comes from the prophet Zechariah in chapter 8. He says he envisions a world where old men and old women shall again sit in the streets of Jerusalem, each with staff in hand because of their great age. And the streets of the city shall be full of boys and girls playing in the streets. That's a vision of the prophets in the Bible, of elders at peace and children at play. And I love what the prophet adds. Thus says the Lord of hosts, even though it seems impossible to the remnant of this people in these days, should it also seem impossible to me, says the Lord of hosts? Anger, grief, and love. There are pathway out of apathy and into loving action. Loving action inspired by a holy vision that often seems impossible to us who are jaded by all that we've seen or are seeing now. But the prophets dare us to believe that with the God of peace, all things are possible. Go in peace.